Welcome back to Chat Like a Native. Today we are giving you the ultimate blueprint to finally stop that endless cycle, you know the one, setting these huge, punishing language goals that just lead to burnout and guilt and eventually quitting.
Mhm.
Instead, we're focusing on how to build a genuinely sustainable path to English fluency, but without all that stress. We've all been there, right? That big rush of motivation on January 1st that, well, it just fades the second life gets a little complicated.
It always does, and that's the real problem we're looking at today. The most important insight here is that those traditional hard goals,
Mhm.
they fail. They fail because they rely completely on motivation.
And motivation is unreliable.
Exactly. That's like expecting sunny weather every single day. The successful approach, the one that lasts, involves a total shift in focus. You start trying to have these intense marathon study sessions,
Right.
and you start cultivating these tiny, repeatable, and this is key, kind daily rituals. That's what builds the quiet, unstoppable momentum.
So is there a simple way to remember that?
There is. It's called the SRC method.
SRC. Okay. What's that?
It stands for small, repeatable, and consistent. If you can commit to making your English practice SRC, you are basically guaranteeing progress that lasts long after that initial motivation is gone.
So today we're really digging into how to make your language journey kind, but still incredibly effective.
That's right. It's about consistency over intensity. When a goal demands, say, 2 uninterrupted hours of study every day, it's basically designed to fail under real-life pressure.
So you're saying it's the goal that fails, not the learner.
Precisely. The goal is the failure, not you. Our mission here is to engineer your English practice so that it becomes almost unavoidable.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately. Why do those really serious sounding goals, I'll study 2 hours every day or I'll learn 50 new words a week, why do they almost always fall apart by February?
Well, what we're seeing is that the trap is built right into the goal itself. These hard resolutions, they depend entirely on having peak motivation.
Which we've already said is unreliable.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Psychologically, motivation is fueled by this dopamine rush you get from novelty and big achievements, but that fuel always runs out. So if your plan only works when you feel sunny and energized,
And it's not really a plan, it's more like a wish.
it's a liability. Yeah.
That makes sense, but why do we do it? Why do we as learners default to these super difficult targets? Is it because we feel like if it's not hard, it's not really working?
That's exactly it. That's the root of the problem. We've internalized this belief that suffering equals success. But the material really highlights how these hard goals create an all-or-nothing mindset.
All or nothing.
Right. So if you manage to study perfectly for, say, 3 days, you get this little hit of pride. But the second you miss one day, the whole system just breaks.
And that's where the guilt spiral starts?
That's the psychological spiral. Missing one day triggers guilt. Guilt then leads to shame, which leads to avoidance, and eventually quitting.
So the insight for you, the listener, is that the goal failed because its design couldn't handle the reality of your life. It's not about a lack of willpower.
Not at all. We need goals that are, in effect, life-proof.
Okay, so if chasing these hard resolutions is a recipe for failure, what does a soft resolution actually look like? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
A kind or soft resolution is based on 3 foundational rules, and they're all designed to minimize friction.
Okay.
First, it has to be so small that you can do it even on a really terrible, busy, exhausted day.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it needs to be easy to repeat. That means no special setup, no travel, no expensive stuff. It has to be effortless.
Yeah.
And third, it needs to be connected to your actual life, not some isolated, scary study time.
So that's the tiny ritual idea.
That's the core concept. A small, specific English action, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, repeated almost every day. It's just too small to scare you into procrastinating. But it's big enough to build that psychological momentum.
And the momentum is the real prize here, isn't it?
It is. When we get rid of that high energy cost just to start the practice, consistency follows almost automatically. And the key tool for this is what's called the minimum English day. The MED. It's the absolute smallest action that you'll allow yourself to count as a win. It's not your perfect day, it's your guaranteed minimum.
Let's get specific. I think people need concrete examples of these MEDs. What does a 5 or 10-minute ritual actually look like?
Okay, so for listening practice, a 5-minute MED could just be listening to a short English clip, maybe 60 seconds, and then repeating just 3 sentences out loud. The focus isn't perfection, It's copying the rhythm and the intonation.
Okay, what about for vocab?
For vocabulary, maybe you take 7 minutes to review 10 flashcards. But here's the important part. You have to say each word in a brand new short sentence.
Ah, so it forces you to actually use it.
Forces active application, yeah.
Yeah.
It moves you beyond just passively recognizing the word.
And for reading?
For reading, maybe 10 minutes. You read one short paragraph from an article, and you underline exactly 5 useful phrases. You're not trying to understand everything, you're just extracting useful language.
Okay, and is there a really short one?
Yeah.
For speaking?
Yes, the shortest MED. 5 minutes, you just record a voice note to yourself summarizing your day. Today I did this. I feel like that. Tomorrow I will. Super simple.
This brings up a really interesting question, though. Why should it feel almost too easy? Shouldn't we be pushing ourselves a little?
That feeling of almost too easy is completely intentional. It's designed to eliminate your internal resistance.
Right, the voice that says, ugh, I don't want to.
Exactly. If a task is so easy, you don't even have to think about it. You just do it. And consistency is the primary driver of fluency, not intensity. A slow, steady stream fills the bucket way faster than a huge flood that just evaporates. The MED guarantees you show up.
So consistency is obviously key, but how do we make sure that even a 5-minute ritual sticks when we're busy or stressed? We need to remove the need for memory or motivation.
You do. And we do that by connecting the ritual to the bigger science of habit formation, specifically using a technique called habit stacking.
Habit stacking, okay.
The idea is really simple. You attach your new, tiny English ritual, let's call it Y, to an existing habit, X, that you already do automatically, without fail.
Like brushing your teeth.
Like brushing your teeth. So the
Yeah.
formula becomes, after I brush my teeth, I will listen to English for 5 minutes. Or after I make my morning coffee, I will read one short paragraph.
That's powerful because it uses existing brain pathways. But what happens when that existing habit, my X, gets totally interrupted? You know, my morning routine is a disaster, or I'm traveling. Does the whole system just collapse?
And that is the critical point.
Mm.
That's what separates a system that works from one that fails. Most people only plan for success. We have to plan for stress, for disruption.
Okay.
And this is where the secret weapon comes in. If-then plans.
If-then plans. So these are like backup plans.
They're your contingency layer. They protect your main habit stack and keep your plan alive during those high-pressure times. They stop that all-or-nothing spiral before it starts.
Give me some real examples. How do you plan for stress and protect the MED?
Okay, so rule 1 is to protect the minimum. You decide ahead of time. If I'm completely exhausted, then I will do my 5-minute minimum practice only and nothing more. That makes it almost impossible to fail.
I like that. It gives you permission to do the bare minimum.
Exactly. Another vital one is for the day you'll inevitably miss. The rule is, if I miss a day, then I will restart tomorrow with the smallest possible step. No shame, just restart.
And for travel?
For travel, you plan for it. If I'm traveling, then my English practice will be on the go. That means just listening and maybe repeating simple phrases while you're walking. You pre-approve the easier option so you don't have to decide in the moment.
Okay, before we get into more ritual options, you mentioned something about the internal environment. Your self-talk, that seems huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
If your mind is a strict, judging teacher, you will instinctively avoid the practice, even if it's just for 5 minutes. But if your internal voice is more like a supportive coach, you bounce back way faster after you make a mistake.
So we need to upgrade our internal monologue to what you call kind English. How do we do that practically?
It's about cognitive restructuring, really. So instead of letting that negative thought run wild, like, I'm so stupid when I speak English, you have to deliberately replace it
With what?
with something like, I'm learning. Mistakes are normal, and they're actually necessary for me to grow.
I see. So you're not denying the feeling, you're just reframing it.
You're reframing it. Or if you think, I always forget words, you rephrase it to, forgetting is part of how memory works. I'll just review that word again. It shifts the focus from a personal feeling to just a process.
And what about the big one? The fear of speaking. I can't speak.
For that one, you soften the scope. Instead of I can't speak, you say, I can speak slowly and clearly. And that's enough for today's practice. It's
Yeah.
about accepting where you are right now.
That's a much kinder approach.
And if you're really feeling discouraged, there's a quick 30-second script. You name the feeling. I feel frustrated. You normalize it. This is a normal part of learning. And then you choose the next small step. Now I will do my 5-minute MED. It just interrupts that guilt cycle.
Okay, so with that kind of mindset in place, let's go back to the menu of rituals. What are some other 5 or 10 minute options?
So ritual A is all about pronunciation and flow. We call it repeat 3 sentences. You listen to a short audio clip, pick 3 sentences, and just repeat them 3 times. You're not aiming for perfection, you're copying the rhythm, the music of the language.
I like that. Low pressure. What's next?
Ritual B is microspeaking. This directly tackles the fear of speaking. You record yourself on your phone for 1 minute, answering a simple question like, what did you do today? Then, and this is important, you listen back just once, notice one thing to improve, and you're done. Low stakes, immediate feedback.
And for building vocabulary more actively.
That would be ritual C, phrase collection. While you're reading, you pick 3 useful phrases. Not single words, but chunks like, from my point of view, or I had no idea that. And then you write your own sentence using each one.
Forcing you to actually use it in context.
Exactly. It forces contextualization, which is key for remembering. And finally, there's ritual E, English while living. This is about making English a lifestyle, not a subject.
How does that work?
It could be as simple as changing one app on your phone to English. Or just narrating what you're doing during chores. I'm pouring the milk. I'm waiting for the kettle to boil. It just pulls English out of the classroom and into your real life.
We've got the tiny ritual. We've got the kind mindset. How do we track our progress without the tracker becoming just another source of stress and guilt?
The tracking should be about reinforcing your identity, not about achieving perfection. The suggestion is a super simple tracker. Just draw 30 boxes for the month. Every day you do your MED, your minimum practice, you put a tick in a box.
That's it.
That's it. The simplicity is the point. You're not tracking hours or words learned. You're tracking the identity. I am the kind of person who shows up for English. It reframes the whole effort.
Okay, but what about when you inevitably miss a day? How do you stop that one missed day from becoming a month of quitting?
That's where the key defensive measure for consistency comes in. It's called the never miss twice rule.
Never miss twice?
Missing one day is normal. It happens. You're human. But missing 2 days in a row, that's what breaks the momentum. That's when the old habit of avoidance sneaks back in. So your rule isn't never miss. It's never miss twice.
So if I miss Monday, Tuesday has to be the comeback day.
It has to be the comeback day, even if you can only manage 3 minutes. It removes the shame and forces you to immediately get back to that identity of being consistent.
Okay, so if we pull all of this together, what would a gentle but effective 4-week plan look like for someone starting out?
So week 1 is just settle in. The only goal is to do your minimum ritual 5 days out of 7. And you have to anchor it to a fixed time using that habit stacking technique. The goal is just stability.
Right. Get the habit established. Then week 2.
Week 2 is the tiny upgrade. You keep the exact same ritual, but you add one tiny extra thing, one more minute, one more sentence you repeat, just something very small to build on the base you created.
And week 3.
Week 3 is about real-life application. You keep your core ritual, but you add one small, low-risk, real-life moment. Maybe order a coffee in English or ask a question in an online forum. You're just testing the system out in the real world.
I see. And the last week.
Week 4 is review and reset. You just sit down and ask yourself, what worked? What felt too hard? What can I simplify? And you use those answers to build your plan for the next month, always sticking to that SRC principle.
So what does this all really mean for you, the listener? It sounds like it's about shifting your focus away from perfection, which is impossible, and towards progress, which is, well, it's guaranteed with consistency.
That's the core idea. And also recognizing that the common problems, the things that make you want to quit, are just normal parts of learning, not personal failures.
Let's quickly run through those. What if you think, I just don't have time?
The answer is always a smaller task. Your 5-minute MED is your defense against that thought.
And if you feel like I'm not improving,
Then you need to change your feedback loop. Record yourself speaking once a week. Then compare it after 4 weeks. The progress is there. It's just often too slow to see day to day.
what about the fear of making mistakes?
You have to remember a fundamental truth. Mistakes are the only proof that you are actually practicing. Fluency isn't the absence of mistakes. It's the ability to speak imperfectly without shame.
And finally, what if you just keep forgetting words?
Then stop trying to learn more words. The key is to reuse fewer words more often. Repetition, not volume, is what builds long-term memory.
So this year, the promise isn't to become a perfect speaker in 2 months. It's something smaller and maybe stronger. I will practice a little often, and I will be kind to myself when I slip.
Exactly. Because learning English is like a relationship. And any good relationship grows with gentle, regular care, not with brutal, infrequent attacks.
That's a great way to put it.
So a final thought for you to take away. If you committed to just one 5-minute English ritual every single day, what is the fastest way you could link it to an activity you already absolutely cannot skip, like washing the dishes or tying your shoes or waiting for the coffee machine? Focus on making that link undeniable.